How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to TheBlueShifting and welcome back to Muv-Luv Mondays, where we're in the midst of crisis. It's bad. So we got terrorists who are coordinating with kind of a religious cult, I guess. Like, it's kind of like they're kind of working together. You know, apparently they got shared goals or whatever. Ultimately, it's just bad. They've taken over the base, they've shut down communications. There's a large portion of the base that probably doesn't even know what's going on. Majority of the TSFs have been taken command of, and while they don't have pilots to fill all of them, they have weapons, whilst, like, you know, Argus Flight and the other people we've been able to kind of, like, coordinate with, they don't have any guns on any of their TSFs, so we're flying around with, like, a couple swords, and that's really it. So, not looking good. We also know that majority of leadership is under lockdown, and we have confirmation that they've broken into a secret military facility that is housing beta, like, specimens, which is gonna just be great for everybody. Finally, we also saw that the Infinities, the American, like, team they sent out here, are on some kind of Black Ops mission that is including them activating, like, their true stealth capabilities, which is probably not even what they're showcasing in the blue flag. It's literally like they're here for some kind of Black Op, just happens to be on the same day. Could be a coincidence. I'm not quite convinced of that. We'll just have to see how it all plays out. Maybe they're secretly being told to take advantage of the situation, especially because they saw Yuuya being chased out of the base. They're trying to bring her down. So we'll see how that manages, especially Kriska trying to find her and trying to get to her. And then we left off with this Valentine girl who's kind of like the number 2 directly underneath this master. And she has found out that there is a kind of like a hole been punched in their system. Somebody's, like, taken some of their operatives out. Seems to be adapting to where they're trying to look for him. And she's kind of deduced that that means that this is a figure who has got hold of a radio. And it sounds like it's our Commander Dogulu. So we're going to see how this all plays out. But yeah, exciting stuff. And then, like, it's also keep in mind, like, the motivations of these groups, I think is a particular note. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world right now. And I think while art tends to mimic life, like, it does so in a way that helps us, like, think about things in a new perspective. And I think a good perspective to remember is that while these people are clearly in the wrong, there's a lot of people who will be pushed to doing wrong things if it feels like it's their only recourse. When you bottle up people, force them into situations where they're impoverished, where they can't do anything for themselves, where there's limited power, and those who have power seem to be lauding it or taking advantage of it and suppressing or leading or taking actions that lead to the deaths of innocent people, especially families, women, and like mothers, like children, the elderly, like the people who would normally are just, you know, just there to try and survive, that just need, like that have nothing to do with the combat or the political fights, getting caught in those crossfires. When that happens, it pushes people towards extremes, either giving up and being broken, or retaliating, often in very extreme forms, because it feels like it might be the only way their voice gets heard, the only way that they can enact any change. Is it the right option to take? Probably not, but that's really easy to say when you're in the cushy side, you know, when you've got all your needs that are met, when you have freedom, when you have the ability to judge what other people are doing. So it's a good thing to help keep grounded, especially with the climate that's going on right now in the political, like, the world scene. Like, I'm not going to get on the political side of it, but I'm always going to be on the side of humanity and about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. So yeah, it's a good kind of frame of reference to, like, understand. Like I've said before, these people are in the wrong, but their claims and what they're fighting for, I can't necessarily say they're wrong. I just don't think they're doing things the right way. Granted, has anything they've done in the right way brought about any change? It's hard to know. So, let's see how this all plays out. Let's just jump right in. He's a slippery one. No, Occam's razor would suggest he simply tapped into our comms.
追跡班に伝達。指示があるまで無線の使用は禁じる。
追跡中の全メンバーに告げる。指示あるまで無線を封鎖せよ。繰り返す。指示あるまで無線を封鎖せよ。
正規の軍人と我々ではこれほどの差があるというのか。
That's the crazy thing too, is like what's hard about any kind of armed resistance or rebellion is that you're taking militia, you know, citizens who are doing their very best against people who've been trained. It's gonna be very difficult. they've been very successful in this campaign. But yeah, she's like they don't have staying power. She mentioned that before.
バレンタイン、提案が標的が無線を奪ったというのであれば、それに呼びかけてはどうです？投降しない場合は人質を殺すと。
我々は必要以上の外道に身を落とすわけにはいかない。必要以上に殺す気も毛頭ない。
しかし
クリストファー少佐の子飼いたちのように人を殺しまくりたいか？それでは大義の名のもとに難民虐待を行う者たちと何ら変わらないぞ。
Yeah, again, here, like, these are not just like, I also like this because it's really easy to take, you know, antagonists and just make them bad, make them evil, make them crazy. But no, like, they've got some sound arguments. They have their own values that they hold to. And, like, they, like, obviously there's differences between different people, but ultimately the organization is supposed to be this upstanding kind of group. And, like, this idea, like, she's at the top. She says, like, hey, like, we're not going to cut down people in cold blood. That makes us as bad as the people we're fighting. But then again, this same group was the same type of people who, when Natalie was kind of essentially giving us information, whether she just intended for us to, like, know what was going on or she just was bragging, they executed her. So, it's like, again, it's like, there's a lot of interesting dichotomy there. There's a lot of, like, not quite consistent, because there's no consistency between what's going on. So, interesting.
キャンプでの生活を思い出せ。我々は声なき者たちの代弁者だ。人としてのモラルを忘れてはならない。手を汚すときは私が率先する。貴様たちはいずれ家族のもとに帰らなければならないことを忘れるな。
I mean, she's got a point.
我々はこの任務に志願した時から生還のことは考えていません。
先にやってきたのは相手の方です。どんな手段を使っても目的を達成することが。
貴様！
何？
Oh my gosh. Holy crap.
動くな。他の者は気絶させた。助けは来ない。
Yeah, you gotta respect the man. He's good.
話を聞かせてもらう。拘束を緩めるが、叫ぶようなことをした場合、生きながら地獄を経験してもらうことになる。
He's not threatening to kill her, at least.
貴様たちの人数は誰の手引きで侵入した？
答えるとでも？
それは困るな。素直に話してもらいたい。私も外道には身を落としたくない。
So that's a clever threat, showing he was listening.
トルタイ！
貴様。
バレンタイン、伏せて！
ご無事ですか？問題ない。少し背中を打ったくらいだ。
So he got interrupted, sadly.
ちくしょう！野郎ぶっ殺してやる！よせ！深追いはするな。怪我をした仲間の救助を優先してくれ。
なぜです？今なら奴を殺せる。仲間が負傷してるんですよ。何人も。
人数を集めてからだ。数で圧倒する。暗闇の中では我らの利を失うことになる。ビルの出入り口を抑えているのだから焦る必要はない。
It could be dangerous, though, assuming you have control of the entire situation.
しかし早くしないと。
増援を集めてからだと言っている。生半可な敵ではないことは分かっているはずだぞ。
落ち着け！この暗闇では向こうの方が有利だ。
クソ！
マスターよりの通達です。声明まで時間がありません。なすべきをなすために本部に帰投するように。
了解した。本部に帰投する。
I mentioned this that I also think the master is purposely putting her up as the fall person. Like, sure, everything goes perfectly smoothly. That's great. And she gets to get all this clout and support. Of course, she always is loyal to the master, which is all that really matters. But things go sideways. She gets to take the fall. The master, the true leader, you know, gets to slip away. And while, like, some of the higher-ups obviously would understand that he was, like, in charge, because, like, they're, as long as they're not executed while he's there, like, they're people who've seen him, who've heard him, who know that he's giving orders. But when it comes to, like, Court of Appeals and the Court of, like, public opinion, she'll be taken out. Everyone will think it's okay and move on. Like, it's really kind of clever hedging of your bets. Like, not wanting to always, not wanting your primary leader to be the face, but rather kind of like the power behind the face. It's a really solid structure.
つくづく欲のない方だ。本気で私に声明を発表させるつもりとはな。
I don't think so. I'm telling you, he's setting you up for the fall.
それにしても、なぜあなたがここにいる？
Oh.
よりにもよってこのタイミングで。
So maybe she has a more personal connection with him. Training grounds A207.
センサー設置完了。そっちと合流する。了解。
A large-scale urban warfare training field. Good choice. We have plenty of cover against guided missiles.
対レーザー級演習 B206 演習場を中心に半径100キロ圏内は36時間の飛行禁止。これはこのような時に演習をする部隊などない。テロリストの仕業だな。通信システムを抑えた今、ユーコン基地の状況は外部には伝わらない。テロリストが警戒するのは基地内部からの逃亡者と外部からの接近。
It's a good call. So they spread false information about unscheduled exercise to keep people away.
だろうな。心理的に空爆を牽制したんだ。通信障害仕掛けておいてよくやるわ。
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is like, with so many people being civilians in this, like, there's clearly somebody who understands a lot more, who's planned and coordinated all of this. 2 Shirinui seconds, 2 active eagles, 2 strike eagles, and 1 Takamakazuchi. We're not exactly packing major firepower, but 7 TSS is nothing to sniff at. They're bound to make a move against us. Assuming neutralizing all TSS on the base is their priority, we'll have to face the enemy sooner or later. Whether we can hold them off here is a different kind of worms. At least the terrain works in our favor.
では、短絡中、お願いします。
敵は軍人ではない。
脱出の際に何人かと接
Ah, he's
触
a
した
known
の。
too.
いずれも軍人の所作ではなかった。よく言って、せいぜい身辺に毛の生えた程度の連打だ。
Yeah, he's got a fantastic voice, but it does not travel through the radio very well. Like, it does not, it sounds really scuffed.
おそらく難民から志願兵を募ったのだろう。テロリストの常套手段だ。
I mean, it's easy to get sympathy from them, that's, like, to have a sympathetic argument with them.
司令部の状況、加えて、ドール注意の消息はご存知ありませんか？
定例会議前にはすでに司令部ビルにテロリストが潜伏していた。連中は事前に国連 MP の軍曹を手配していたようだ。私の知る限りでは、司令部は連中に完全占拠されている。
だとすれば、中央作戦司令室をはじめ、通信、警備、ほとんどのシステムが敵の手に落ちたと考えるのが順当だな。
Yeah, so even if you hear messages from them, like, unless you can get a verification that things are safe, which is going to be really tough, don't trust it.
これだけの状況で、どこの警備部隊も動いている気配がないってことは、すべて抑えられたと見るべきね。厄介だわ。産後戦術機大隊。つまり、一個連隊108機が敵の手に落ちたってことよね。
Dang.
試験小隊の隊長クラスは軒並み拘束されている。襲撃時に処分された者もいた。脱出後のことは不明だが、余分な人員を割いて監視するとは思えない。
隊長はどうなってる？何か知ってんだろ？
ドール注意とは早い段階で行動を別にした。外部の国連軍基地に連絡を取るとは言っていたが、その後については不明だ。
何？二人で行動すりゃ隊長も一緒に脱出できただろうが。よせ少尉、生存確率を上げるには適切な判断だ。
Considering they're both professionals, it was the right call. Normally, I'd say splitting up is a terrible idea, but especially in covert ops, and especially when, like, dissemination of information is the premium. Like, information right now is the currency of survival. And so, having them split up with critical information, critical, like, intel, probably was the right call.
ドール中は、斧がなすべきことをなしたのだ。
正規の軍隊が十分な戦力に基づいて作戦を展開していたのならば、私は司令部ビルから脱出できていないだろう。もっとも、単なるテロリストに、ここまで大規模な作戦展開ができるというのも、怪しい話だ。
Even assuming that, like, the Master's brilliant and has tons of useful insider information, there's still a lot to this. This seems too well coordinated. So maybe that's hinting at some outside help, even like maybe like secretive help. Because remember, we got confirmation that the Americans have some kind of secret plan going on right now. So maybe they kind of orchestrate this. It's very similar to what happened in the coup in Japan. That will happen in the coup. Is that like while it was a terrible thing that happened, it wasn't like it happened completely blind. Like it was clear that intelligence, UN intelligence specifically, was involved somewhat. Now, would they say that they wanted it to go as far as it did? No, but they certainly knew the strings to pull, and they got the most out of what was happening, including making sure the Shogun got away. Like, it's a close call, but like they were able to guarantee that happened, and that kind of helped mitigate like the fallout of what happened in the aftermath. So yeah. Not too hard to believe that maybe some like dark hand organizations or sub-organizations were helping them out, giving them potentially insider information.
機関はこの襲撃の背後にいずこかの国家があると見ているのですか？
そうではない。私は集めた情報を公開しているだけだ。機関を誘導するつもりは毛頭ない。
I mean, it makes sense. It's like, what sounds more likely? That a terrorist organization that has to completely work in the black, who has to have, that only typically has access to people, personnel, materials that are accessed by civilians and refugees, would be able to put together the information, the resources, and the coordination necessary to pull this off, or that they somehow got help, even if whether they know it or not, from an outside force, an outside sponsor. Again, the info and the logic would say that this is second.
あらゆる可能性を提示し、それを検証して潰していかなければ、真実には到達できない。高村中尉に提案する。北上し、米01基地に向かい戦力を立て直すべきだ。あそこには武器も弾薬もある。それに。私の。
ですか？
機関の指揮下に入れ。うさんくさいんだよ。私らを騙して東側で拘束するつもりなんじゃねえの？
Calm down, Teresa.
大体あんたの情報は。少尉、上官の話に口を出すな。失礼しました、サンダーク中尉。申し訳ないが、その提案には賛同しかねます。
Especially with prototypes, you know. It sucks, but there are like set priorities, and one of the priorities is like we gotta guard this stuff with our like it would be better to destroy what we have than to let it fall into hands of even allies.
高村中尉、テロリストの使用した警備部隊の戦術機は無人機が多かったと聞いた。それこそがこのテロリストの全容を表しているのではないか。陸戦部隊を潜入させることには成功したが、戦術機を操る人員が足りない。それならば戦術機による迅速な対応こそ連中が最も警戒している展開だろう。
時間をかければその分テロリストが様々な作戦を展開する猶予を得ることになる。
What if we didn't fall under his command, but we simply escorted him back to his base, give him chance to, get his people, but then we could extradite out and continue autonomously?
そうだ。先ほど発令されたベータ演習警報もその一つだろう。航空機に接近されないための目くらましという推測は外れていないと考える。
That's a good point. Why would they want to stop aircraft from even casually flying over?
我々の正体は西側陣営で構成されています。機関の意見を尊重し、戦力を整えた上で即時反抗するにしても、その補給をソ連軍基地にのみ頼るものではありません。
米01基地に移動を進める理由は2つ。一つには米01がユーコン基地から最短距離にあること。もう一つはこの事件の黒幕はアメリカの可能性があるということだ。
Get out of here. This guy can't be serious.
ここにいる諸君も十分に理解していると思うが、今一度確認しておく。我が祖国がアメリカに戦争を仕掛けるメリットは皆無だ。ユーラシアでベータと直接対峙している我が祖国が背後のアメリカに戦争を仕掛けるような余力があろうはずがない。だがアメリカにはある。 本土より遠方に防衛線を築くために、アメリカならどのような手でも使うだろう。アメリカの傀儡となった国々を見れば理解できるはず。無理実証には申し訳ないが、ありていに言って、アメリカは他国の事情などを一切考慮しない国だ。
It's weird because I think I agree and disagree. Obviously, with a larger, like currently, the current world, I don't know about this world, it's pretty clear they definitely are willing to sacrifice others, you know, to protect themselves. And granted, I think, push comes to shove, I think modern America would do the same thing. But it doesn't mean that the modern America isn't willing to outreach and to try and support others. And like I think like the support that's been given to Ukraine, support that's been given to other forces around the world has been like legitimately out of a measure of concern and out of a measure of respect and out of a measure of wanting to see like hostilities wind down without compromising to extreme and inappropriate needs. So a good example is like Ukraine. I've heard a lot of people say like, why are you continuing to fight the war? Why are you allowing it to continue on? I would argue it's like, no, I guarantee you every American and every politician in America, well, maybe, assuming they're not completely corrupt, would want nothing more than for the violence to stop. I say the same thing with the Middle East, the Israel and Hamas confrontation. Like, we all want that to end. But there's a point where it's like, you can't just let things end in a method of giving into like these really nationalistic and terroristic like organizations and these attitudes, because that won't do anything that will help. If anything, it'll harm and make things harder in the future. I mean, that's what World War II taught us, right? With Hitler being as aggressive as he was and like annexation his neighbors and like demanding land back. And like people like the other nations in the League of Nations, they gave in, and then but you know, his intent was to push the envelope until they broke, but to get as much as he could until they finally like resisted. And by that point, he'd been able to stage everything he needed to do to get such a powerful hold on everything that he genuinely became a threat to the rest of the planet. So same kind of thing here. It's like, and like modern day, it's like it's not just like, oh, like we want to stop fighting at all costs, because if all costs means relinquishing power, control, and influence to people who are quite willing to just completely override like liberty, freedom, and respect and dignity for culture, that becomes problematic. Granted, I can't say I completely support, like the Middle East is a much more complicated issue, and I really don't know if there's like any positive answer or good side to be on in that type of conflict. I don't think it's the kind of conflict that can have sides, and all the minutia about that, again, I'm not going to get into it, because even I find it conflicting to the point where I don't think I can make any like strong stances either way, because I just don't know. So it's really like tough to even talk about, but I think it is worth at least thinking about, which is why I'm even bringing it up. It's like I'm not here to make a political stance or try and pretend I know better or know anything that should be done about any of that. Just simply, we should be thinking about it. We should be taking it internally, and we should be questioning, you know, everything we hear. We should be trying to learn what we can and trying to make decisions that are primarily driven by the idea of peace and health. And whatever the fighting is, civilians should definitely not be the ones that pay the price, if at all possible. So yeah, anyway.
この事件を足がかりに共産党政府を崩壊に導き、制御可能な親米政権を打ち立てようとしているのではないか。うがった見方をすれば、そこまで考えることはできる。
Funnily enough, both America and Russia in the Cold War era essentially did that. That's essentially what their whole point, their whole drive was like. They would seek out allies or conflicts and try and make allies, and by helping win by proxy war, establish essentially a puppet government, like something that would hold to the line of the respective entity and governmental structure that they believed was the appropriate one. So he's definitely not wrong. It's a thing that happened and will probably continue to happen. Bullcrap. No, you don't know your history. Look at this ball staying on his high horse, as if he's any better. The stream of diarrhea coming out of his mouth is nothing but speculation and assumptions. We all know what happens when you assume.
アメリカに余力があるというが、かの国が好き好んで最前線へ打って出るとは思えません。仮にアメリカが裏にいるとしたら、もっとうまく立ち回るはず。少なくとも戦術機部隊の逃亡を許すなどありえない。
Also, yeah. Like, we've identified that the majority of the people who are operating here are not trained soldiers. So if America were the mastermind, either they would have secretly, like, infiltrated to help support things, or this is simply maybe a sponsored event that is going to be utterly, like, distanced from any American ties.
そうですね。それにタリサの言った通り、着いた途端機体を鹵獲される恐れがあります。
ならば、ストライクイーグルの対応を要求したい。それで私とビャチノワ少尉は現隊に復帰する。機体に関しては返還を約束する。
正気ですか？反対したイーグルでは。
我々にはやらねばならない任務がある。ここから最寄りの基地はソ連領に存在しているのだ。戦力の立て直しは
I mean,
一刻を争う状況にある。
if he's willing to take that risk, honestly, I'm not sure we can hold him here. It would be ridiculous to do so. Guess even Lieutenant Sendek's finally getting ruffled.
繰り返す。このテロに対抗するには作戦の展開速度こそが最も重要だ。
I do think at least he should be able to do this much.
ユーコン基地には10万を超える人々と原子力発電所が存在する。人質を使われた場合、米ソ両国ともに簡単には動けなくなるだろう。原子炉も同じことだ。
And they try to. Oh, right. And remember, I was going to say, like, they could try to weaponize it, but like they already said that's what they plan to do.
アメリカにしても我が国にしても、これ以上健全な領土が減少することは死活問題だ。だからこそ、すぐに動かなくてはならない。
物理的に戦術機7機のみでこのテロの鎮圧は不可能です。早急な対応によってそれが叶うとする注意の見解には同意できかねます。
スカーレットツインの実力は機関らが最も実感しているはずだと思うが。
They might actually be able to do it.
敵の作戦を鑑みるに、この基地を長期にわたって占拠するつもりはないことが伺える。
その根拠は？
ここはアメリカの庭だ。アメリカが本気になれば、この基地は2時間で怪人にキスだろう。
Yep.
それがよそ。
He's assuming that getting serious equals adopting scorched earth tactics, where the hostages' lives wouldn't be a factor.
だからこそ、連中は何か仕掛けてくる。アメリカが、世界が対応する前に何か大きなことを仕掛けてくるはずだ。
And another counterpoint. Again, if that's the case, which it probably is, they've made sure to do their absolute best to lock down all TSFs, either commandeering them themselves or trying to destroy them. Which means that a squad of TSFs piloted by confident pilots might actually be able to disrupt their grand plan.
私はそれを未然に防ぎたい。そのためには、今の戦力では不足している。機体交流の恐れがあるのはアメリカも変わらないだろう。特に高村注意。機関の登場するタイプ0は、機密の塊と聞く。
Pretty much.
機体に封印を施し、監視すれば問題はありません。もっとも、アメリカが竹三日月一機のために、新利息を犯すとは思えませんが。ですが、帰国にはカムチャツカで実際に世話になっています。信用という意味ではアメリカに勝る。
Wow. That's gotta be weird for Yuuya to hear. Yuuya, are you seriously gonna go along with Sendek's proposal?
サンダーク注意の話は全て予想ですよね。
No surprise Stella isn't buying what he's selling.
高村注意。私は最も近い米軍基地のフェアバンクスへ向かうのが順当だと考えます。なあ、注意さんよ。自分たちがどう見られてるのか分かってんの？私はソ連基地へ行くのだけは反対だ。ユウヤ、お前もなんか言ってやれ。
Oh boy. I'm Japanese American, an American soldier. I'm a soldier in a Western country who's trained all his life to fight the Beta and the Soviet Union as a hypothetical human enemy. From everything the army's drilled in my head, going to Fairbanks seems like the right choice, no two ways about it, but I can't deny Lieutenant Sendik's argument makes a ton of sense. An isolated terrorist group couldn't pull off something this scale, and if they did, they'd definitely have to have contingencies in place to deal with a siege by the US or Soviets. Thinking outside the box would be the smart play.
ばっかじゃないの？西だの東だの言ってる場合？ベータの脅威に直接さらされていないユーコンじゃ仕方ないけど、こんな状況になったんだから少しは妥協しなさいよ。まあ、うちも偉そうなこと言えないんだけどね。
Yufei. You just had to ruin it with your jokes at the end. Oh.
なんだくそー、やりやがった。何考えてんだよ。
Did we wait too long?
包囲、距離計測。宇宙王艦機の整備用基地よ。
何なんだよこい
What happened?
つ。なんだジャミングが。
Oh, here comes the message. General Headquarters Building, Yukon Army Base. Here we
我
go.
々は今、種の存亡をかけた過酷な戦いの渦中にあります。人として生を受け、子をなし、人として生きた証を残す。長き我々
Oh,
は
I clicked already. Sorry.
どのような危機的な状況にあろうと、誇りを持ち、人として生きるということを捨ててはならないのです。ですが、ベータ大戦勃発以来30年、人として生きることを、我々難民は否定され続けてきました。侵略者であるベータだけではなく、同胞であるはずの人類からも。ベータによって故郷を追われた我々を待ち受けていたのは、難民としての過酷な生活でした。いつか故郷に戻れることを信じ、今が苦しくとも耐え忍ぼう。そうしたわずかな希望を抱き、同じ境遇の者が集まり、茨の道を共に歩み始めたのです。しかし、戦況は悪化の一途をたどり、難民が増えるに従って、私たちは厄介な存在。ありていに言ってしまえば、邪魔な存在として扱われるようになりました。
By the way, this music is good.
同胞であるはずの人間が、難民たちを効率という言葉で切り捨て始めたのです。
Now she's implying essentially like eugenics and genocide. Did they actually go that far?
私が生まれた時、すでにベータの進行は始まっていました。
That last picture. Maybe that's why I thought she looked familiar. Maybe that's a character I've seen in a different, like, storyline.
ですが、私は何の恐怖心も抱かず、家族の愛に包まれ、神の教えに従い生きていました。私だけではありません。私の兄弟たちや友人たちもそうでした。すでに、食料問題や難民問題は、その萌芽を見せ始めていましたが、私の生活には無縁でした。私は何も気にすることなく生きていました。つまり、他人事だったのです。
Yep. That's the problem. That's the catch, right? I mean, like, the situation in Gaza, I have to admit, before all this started going down, I didn't really know what Gaza was. Like, I'd heard it somewhere, but it was always just a place, right? I've now looked into it, and I've learned a lot, and I'm not very fond of what I've learned and that whole situation. I understand why people are so frustrated and why it's so divisive, because there's no good side to that whole situation. It's all just kind of terrible. And for me, it's always going to be the human element that wins out. It's always going to be the human side of things that really matters.
ですが、その幸せな時間は長くは続きませんでした。
Right.
ある時、私の町にもベータが侵攻してきました。父と兄は戦場に向かい、母と私は幼い兄弟たちの手を引いて逃げ落ちることになりました。父は出征前に私を呼び、こう言いました。私は黙ってうなずきました。 父や兄が帰ってこないだろうと予感していたからです。事実、父も兄も帰ることはありませんでした。それから私の家族は14年にわたるキャンプ生活を送ることになりました。最初は国内で、やがて隣国に、海を渡り、気づいた時には故郷から3000キロ以上も離れた土地に住んでいました。
Yeah, I can't imagine.
苦しい生活でした。家もなく、仕事もない地獄のような生活。大人たちに希望はなく、子供たちに夢もない。ただ生きて死んでいく。その生活こそが、我々難民に求められていたものでした。そういった意味では、私たちは難民ではなく、帰民と呼んで差し支えのない存在だったと言えましょう。我々を受け入れてくれた国々に対して、不平を申し上げているわけではありません。どのような立場の国にも、事情はありますでしょうから。ただ、この声明に耳を傾けてくださる皆様にご理解いただきたいのは、難民たちの大半は、機会すら与えてもらえぬ立場にいるということなのです。
We saw a maturation of this a bit in the day after.
私たちは、ただすがるだけのものではないのです。皆様の情けに甘えたいわけではないのです。機会を与えてほしいだけなのです。
Now that's well and good, but you're about to do some pretty terrible things in the name of wanting to be given a chance. That probably is gonna be not the response you expect if that's what you really want.
私の母は、私と兄弟を育てるために、難民キャンプで体を売り、一切れのパンのために人を殺し、最後には、自分も殺されました。人間を殺すのは簡単です。夢と希望を奪い去ってやればいいだけですから。私たち難民は、その国に溶け込むため、様々な努力をしました。志願して最前線に立ち、盾となって戦うことも厭いませんでした。しかしその一方で、私たちに与えられたのは、旧式の装備と形だけの補給。文字通り私たちは、使い捨てられたのです。キャンプの中に残るものも同じです。ある時、軍の関係者を名乗る男たちが現れて、健康な子供だけを連れて行く事件がありました。
Oh, I don't like where this is going.
兵士として育成するためと係官は言い、キャンプにいた母親たちは、その言葉に従いました。ここにいるだけでは、子供たちに未来はない。母親たちは断腸の思いで、子供たちを見送ったのです。それから10日ほど経ち、キャンプに一人の子供が戻ってきました。脱走してきたと彼は言いました。薬物の実験台にされ、仲間たちのほとんどが死んだと。
That's terrible.
そして、キャンプにたどり着いた翌日、彼は母親の腕の中で短い人生を終えました。
And for what? What were they studying?
その母親の慟哭は今でも忘れられません。手放さなければよかった。私が手放さなければ、この子は死なずに済んだ。飢えたる者には食料を、傷ついた者には薬品を。我々人類はお互いに慈しみ、愛し合わなければなりません。人種を超え、宗教を超え、国籍を超え、我々は分かり合うべきなのです。レーターによって侵攻を受けた国々だけがその席を追い、後方に控える国々が難民を刺激することで利を生むような事態があってはならないのです。
Yeah. That's really interesting. It's like in America, we have a lot of debate right now about illegal crossing of the borders, illegal aliens, you call, people crossing the border without due process and stuff. And what's kind of sad is that like the idea and the people who end up motivating those who come in illegally are business owners who take advantage of their status and the threat of them being deported to pay them under the table, to pay them less than what is legally allowed, not having to provide insurance or anything, or proper housing. Like, there's laws that protect workers that don't apply to unregistered illegal immigrants. And then those same, owners will then vote and cheer for the really harsh crackdown of the people who are trying to, come into the country illegally by using these really harsh, inhumane methods that have been being used in Texas. I'm completely against. It's just really ironic that, refugees, even today, are being abused, but right now it has to be done illegally under the table because the government, does try to step in, does try to regulate, does try to provide, proper, human rights and a pathway towards personal success. But, in a crisis like this, where that undercurrent is expanded into an actually, accepted or at least purposely ignored by the government situation, it could get so bad. And I guarantee you then, there wouldn't be a whole lot of, stopping people crossing the borders illegally. We'd probably open the borders up and just help people, but with people with the understanding that, unless you're citizenized, that you don't have any rights or tributations or support of the government functionalities, which is the case now, but, it would be so much worse. It would essentially become virtual slavery.
その真理に気づいてもらうために、私たちは決起したのです。我々がこの地で成したことは、永遠に世界の記憶に留められるべきなのです。人類が主の皆のもとに生きながらえることができるかどうかが試されています。我々難民は真理にさらされ生き延びたものです。我々は主によって約束の地に導かれ、千年王国を生きるものであります。
So by the way, Pierre, this is really interesting. I don't know if it's a translation thing or if it literally is what she's talking about, but at least in the words that are here, it's very Christian based. There's a lot of references here to Christian beliefs and Christian prophecies. The promised land of the Lord, that's the meek shall be inherit the kingdom of heaven. The millennial kingdom, this idea that after a period of tribulation, there will be 1,000 years of peace where God himself will rule over the world. So that's what she's referencing here.
今、世界には許されざる悪行が蔓延しています。人を人として見ず、己の欲望のためにのみ生きる者が増えていることを忘れてはなりません。特に米ソ両国、並びに国連は悪質です。安穏とした後方に居を構え、世界の不正義と不平等に目をつむる者、難民たちを自らの盾として刺激する者、いずれも等しく、神の手によって裁かれるべき存在です。彼らを助ける者も同罪でしょう。
Here we actually have a great example of religion, the greatest strength and its greatest weakness. Its greatest strength is it offers this idea that despite what happens in life, despite the injustices you see, you experience, even the pains of death and rejection and hatred that you can feel for your entire life, religion typically offers this belief that things will be made right. That the good who are cut down, who are forced to live in squalor, who never have opportunities, will find opportunities, peace, and glory in the life to come. That the evil who gain power, authority, wealth, and prestige by stepping on, crushing, or taking advantage of the everyday person will be, cast down, and all their works will be of naught. And then it's like that peace of mind, that idea that there's an ultimate justice, is oftentimes what a lot of people are clinging to when they join a religion. or at least a form of that. Like you can talk about it being faith-based or whatever, but the promise of a faith is that there's a hand guiding the forces at work, and that all will be made right in the end. That's the ultimate, like if you boil down like why do people join religion, it's that promise, the promise and belief that there's more to life than just the pain and suffering we see. But at the same time, she also takes that end turn where people can then use justification of like, oh, if God is real and he's orchestrated everything, and like the next life will be like determined on what we do, then dying for your cause, killing people whom you see as, you know, guilty or heretics, suddenly is justified. It can encourage and be used to encourage martyrdom, crusades, crimes against humanity, all in the name of the greater good, which is how you can take something that is inherently good. Like, I do think the core elements of our religion is inherently good. It's about hope and inspiration and loving and trying to see a bigger end goal. But it takes that and it can weaponize it, and that gets terrifying. And that's the greatest flaw of religion, is it's a very easy way to manipulate people with intangible proofs. You don't have to, like, it's not about money, it's not about, like, prestige, it's not about, like, preserving even, like, your legacy. It becomes about doing what you believe is right, or what your leaders tell you is right. If you don't decide to step away or to try and cross-examine everything yourself, it can be really easy to get swept up in the hype.
我らは神の剣となりて断罪します。我々はユーコン基地を完全に制圧し、ここに住まう10万を超える人間を人質としました。我々に従わないのならば、我々は人質もろともこの地に散る覚悟があります。
See, you can go from such a good message to the justification of a literal like genocide, or at least massacre with the same breath.
我らの要求は以下の通りです。一つ、世界のすべての国々が即時難民を受け入れること。一つ、受け入れた難民たちには選挙権を与え、その国の国民と同等の権利を保障すること。
So she wants them rapidized into the to be assimilated as citizens.
一つ、収監された RLF および我らと意思を同じくする組織構成員の即時解放。すなわち、アフリカ防衛同盟。
They came up in one of the side stories. I remember them.
黒の旅団、人類の暁、アジア難民問題を考える会、カザフ自由党、ヨーロッパ共産革命団。我々は本気です。先の宇宙王冠機整備用基地爆破は、我々に実行能力があることの証左でしかありません。国連及び米ソ両国は、我々の要求に従わざる場合、アラスカはカナダと同じ死の荒野と化すでしょう。
So they really are going to go scorched earth if their people don't comply.
我々は、それを実行するに足る能力を手に入れた。この言葉の意味をよく考えてください。以後、我々の最後の一人が撃ち滅ぼされるまで、この戦いは続く。虐げられし難民の存在がある限り、我々は世界のどこにでも存在するのです。
素晴らしい。バレンタイン。君の名前は歴史に刻まれた。君こそ現代の聖女だ。
ありがとう、バレンタイン。
最高の演説だったわ。
我らの悲願が報われた。
ありがとうございます。マイマスター、あなたの競技にもできるだけ敬意を払ったつもりなのですが。
If she said all that without a script, that was really good.
君の演説は完璧だ。信仰に関しては仕方ない。あれ以上に触れては角が立つ。すべての協力者が我々と協議を共にしているわけではない。我々だけではここまでの偉業を完遂することはできなかった。宗教宗派の違いを超えて協力してくれる者がいたからこそ成し得たことだよ。
ええ、本当に。
やりましたね、バレンタイン。 あなたは私たち難民の誇りです。
ようやくこれで息子のところに。ありがとう。でも全てはこれからよ。ところでマスタ
ー。なるほど。それは興味深い。いいだろう。それぐらいの土産は持たせてやろう。連中も手ぶらでは帰れない。では、よろしく頼むよ。
マスター、もしや今の相手はクリストファー少佐では。
So he's like on the phone.
察しがいいね。その通りだ。
少佐と何の話をされていたのですか？
君のような清廉な人物が関わるようなものではないよ。
Uh-oh. So wait, what did he say? Let's allow them to take back a memento or two of this occasion after they've worked so hard. So what? What memento are they talking about? TSFs? Talking about stuff with the secret base? What?
私には聞かせられない話だとおっしゃるのですか？
残念ながらそうだ。君には聞かせたくない。この計画には上品とは言えない側面もあるからね。
私たちの間に秘密があっていいのでしょうか？それに私だってこれまでに何人も殺してきました。
私はね、この計画の咎を負うべき人間なのだよ。聡明な君なら察してくれているとは思うのだが、私の両手はすでに血塗られている。
He might be allowing some of the more...
君が想像もできないほどにね。
I guess, like one of the things that leaders have done in situations like this is allow the more baser, like, depraved of their soldiers and troops do very terrible things to people who are hostages because they can. And, like, some leaders will turn a blind eye to it because it helps keep, sadly, morale up. It's disgusting, but that might be what he's talking about.
マスター。
罪のない人々の命を奪うことを強要した私に道を解く資格があるのだろうか。計画が成就した暁には工事をすべて君に任せたい。それが最善だと私は信じている。
そんな、それでは、それに手を汚したというのならば私も同様です。
私たちは二人とも血で汚れている。だからこそ勝利と栄光は君に、罰は私が引き受けよう。
I still think he's setting her up for the fall to be the fall person in case.
なぜ？
私の命令で死んでいった人々がいる。もはや許されようとは思っていない。分かってくれ、バレンタイン。私にできることは一人でも多くの人間に天国の門を叩かせることだけ。
Dang.
マスター。
Am I seeing things? That plain-looking woman is the mastermind behind today's terrorist attack? Does she seriously think a terrorist attack is going to solve the refugee crisis just like that? We're at war with the beta, gosh darn it!
わからないでもない話だわ。ヨーロッパやアジアにいた人間にとっては短すぎることだもの。
It's again, it's one of those things like you can see the awful actions of terrorists, but then you can look at the hard truth and be like, you know, they're not justified in what they're doing, but I can understand. I can't sympathize with like how far people will take it, but I can at least comprehend and see where they got to their conclusions.
そうだな。BG、お前もだろ？
まあな。ヨーロッパの陥落は大量の難民を生んだからな。
The treatment of European refugees and displaced persons is a hot button issue in several countries. The root of the problem is, more often than not, the discriminatory policies adopted by the host countries. Even in the US, law and order is steadily deteriorating in refugee camps to the point where riots are commonplace. I know firsthand how it feels to be on the receiving end of discrimination. Yeah, still, this isn't the right way. As soon as you start taking hostages, you lose any moral high ground.
そのくらい連中も分かってるでしょうね。それでも選ばざるを得ないと思った。だからこそ根は深い。
Yeah, see, that's the thing. She's saying, like if they're doing terrible things, but it's like the majority of them would agree. They just say that we shouldn't do it, but if we don't, when are people going to listen? We've tried everything else. No one cares.
いずれにせよ、こんなやり方には意味がない。難民への偏見を助長するだけ。
Again, yeah.
そうね。アメリカやソ連が要求を飲むわけがないし。
Alright, what's gonna happen then? Nostradamus? They're just gonna bomb the entire fetching base until it glows in the dark? F the 10,000, 100,000 hostages?
それを解決するために。
ブリッジス少尉、機関の意見はまさしく正論だ。アメリカはテロリストの主張に耳を傾けすらしないだろう。このまま事態が進行すれば、機関の言う通りの結果が待っている。ここを吹き飛ばすのが奴らか、米軍かの違いだけだ。
Yeah, exactly.
我々が動かなければ多くの命が犠牲になる。それであれば。
サンダーク注意。
高村中尉も理解しているはずだ。このまま事態が進行すれば、テロリストとアメリカとソ連によるチキンレースが始まるだけだぞ。コーチよりも拙速が尊ばれる局面なのは理解してもらえないだろうか。我々には即時に対応を開始する必要がある。
周囲が言わんとすることは理解できます。ですが、それでも私は、米軍と歩調を合わせるべきと考えています。
I have a really bad feeling.
それは、XFJ 計画が、日米共同の開発計画だからか？
ビャーチェノワ少尉、貴様に発言を許した覚えはない。
申し訳ありません。
Kriska, the poster child for Soviet military discipline, just butted into a conversation between two superior officers. Are we that far gone?
いえ、ビャーチェノワ少尉の指摘は最もです。ですが、たとえ補給を受けたとしても、敵戦力が把握できていない以上、貨幣でテロリストの計画をくじかんとするのはあまりにもリスクが高く、現実的ではない。我々の行動いかんによっては、テロリストが計画を前倒しにする可能性もある。こちらから仕掛ける場合、一気に制圧しなければ、かえって暴発の可能性を高めることになるでしょう。
Oh gosh.
でもよ、暴発しようがしまいが、軍属や民間人は人質のままだ。難民だけじゃないだろ。こいつらも見捨てるのか？
Well, what, Teresa, if we could do something about that, we would. I don't think we're in a position to make that decision right now.
ナタリーだって、本当は間違ってるって分かってたはずなんだ。でも、人質を見捨てるというわけではないが、現状では戦力も情報も不足している。持って戦うべきと、持って戦うべからざるを知る者は勝つ。万有は不要だ。最終的に人質を救うためにも、ここは目をつむらざるを得ない。
Terrorist attacks start from the premise that the perpetrators themselves might die during the execution, but the rest of the world doesn't look kindly on suicidal ventures. Lieutenant Sandek wants to strike back immediately, while Yuuya is concerned we don't have enough bodies to do so. Kriska is desperate to find Yuuya, while Yufei is sticking to the neutral position. Teresa, VG, and Stella seem to sympathize with the terrorist motives to a certain extent, but they're ready and willing to fight back. What's the right call here? There's no time to waste. It's not just our lives at stake, it's the fate at stake of 100,000 people hang in the balance.
そのこらえ性のなさが貴様の限界であり、感情的なところが命取りになる。そういう意味だ。その未成熟な精神が対局を見る目を曇らせている。それが命令であり、そのために全てを拾うことができないなら、何かを捨てるまでだ。
Sacrifices are inevitable. I said that at the time, like, this is how it is in normal everyday life, too.
他人の出来不出来ではない。重要なのは、貴様自身ができるか否かだろう。
Crap. I know that, Lieutenant Colonel. I really do.
敵がテロリストと判明した以上、速やかに米軍基地へ向け移動を開始することこそが、最も現実的な選択です。万が一の際には、日本帝国の威信にかけて、機関には手出しをさせません。
Oh my gosh.
機関が御所を大事にする帝国の威信とやらをアメリカがどれだけ買ってくれるか。繰り返す。ストライクイーグルの貸与を許可していただきたい。ことが解決すれば、対価は支払う。
致し方ありません。そこまでおっしゃるなら、 トライクイーグルを返還していただきます。我々はこれ以上時間を浪費するわけにはいきません。
Huh? How is that any different from the ultimatum? Crap, they're both so intent on sticking to their guns they're missing the forest for the trees. Lieutenant Sendek, assuming we head to the base you're talking about, would we really be able to resupply? Give me your word, Lieutenant Sendek. Promise we will be able to resupply and you won't attempt to steal any confidential data or hardware from us.
保証しよう。補給および XFJ 計画の機密保持に関しては最大限の配慮を約束する。
Well, we can't trust them! Look what they pulled in freaking Kamchatka. Like, look what they did there!
何のつもりだ、ブリッジ少尉。貴様は敵を追う立場にないぞ。
Yuuya will live forever under the Okafor position. She would sacrifice herself for the Empire without a second thought, as our experience in Kamchatka made abundantly clear. She's lived her entire life putting her country and family ahead of herself. In that sense, her argument here is logical, but sometimes logic alone won't cut it. So I'll help her. I'll give her the push she needs. I'd advise you to accept Lieutenant Sendek's offer. That Soviet base is the closest resupply spot for our current position. We'll gather our strength, use our existing force to throw a wrench into terrorist plans. I wasn't born yesterday, Lieutenant. I wouldn't trust the Soviets if I could throw them. Even so, the time's come to make a choice. We need to pick our battles, or we won't be able to save anyone. Compromise is inevitable. Isn't that right, Lieutenant Colonel? We've surface pilots deployed to an unknown battlefield in the middle of the fog of war. Adaptability is what makes the difference between life and death. It's insane to let politics tie our hands. Besides, this is a golden opportunity that would prove those darn terrorists, and to the whole world that we can set our differences aside and come together for the sake of mankind. And yes, how very fitting that it's the very multinational Argus test flight setting the example. Guess Captain Olsen wasn't completely full of crap, huh? We can outsmart these terrorists and ruin their plans. They're not the beta, they're just lost and desperate, driven to the extreme. Whether to succeed or fail, the longer this incident drags on, the more persecution and discrimination refugees will suffer. It's a vicious cycle. What's with that grunt? Enough is enough. There's no Soviet or American side when things come to refugee issues. There's only one thing where there's common ground. Focus on that if you're so worried about the politics of it. How's this for living a carefree lifestyle in the safety of the United States, Lieutenant Colonel? Tell me you understand. I agree, but...
なんだと本気でベータが来ればいいなんて思ってんのかよこの国の連中や周囲の前でよくそんなことが言えるなあ正体の連中だってベータに国を滅ぼされてんだぞあいつらの前でも同じこと言えんのかよ
Vincent's our man. You've lost half your country to the beta. Tell me you understand. There's a very thin line between the folks who were driven from their homelands and those who were, and were forced to rise in arms against us. Gosh darn, I'm gonna do that again. There's a very thin line between the folks who were driven from their homelands and were forced to rise in arms and us. The privileged could have never put themselves in the shoes of the outcasts. At least that's what I used to believe until recently. But I was wrong. And the one who proved it to me was none other than you, Yuuya. You saw that explosion a few minutes ago, right? It's a reminder we're in a race against time. If the terrorists already control the nuclear reactor, our deadline has been moved forward, so we'd better do something soon or Alaska will become a radioactive wasteland just like half of Canada. We're the only ones left in Yukon base, it's up to us! That's all I have to say. Please, Yuuya, you have to understand.
短絡注意。米01基地での補給と機密保持の保証。確約いただけるのですね。
Yuuya.
私の権限の及ぶ範囲で機関らの安全を保証する。弾薬の補給及び推進剤の補給も約束しよう。秘密保持についても最善の配慮を約束する。
He can't speak for his superiors.
わかりました。機関の提言を受け入れましょう。ただし、ギアコーザ少尉、ブレーメル少尉はフェアバンクスの米軍基地へ向かわせます。
Interesting. What?
待て、高村注意。機関は戦力分散の愚を犯すつもりか。
機関の提言は受け入れます。ですが、我々だけでテロを鎮圧するなどという かすかな可能性に全てをかけるつもりはありません。
貨幣をさらに割るのは愚策だ。
ではなぜ、機関は司令部脱出の際、ドール注意と別行動を？状況を把握し、それを外部に伝達することを優先したのでは？ 私がやろうとしていることは、
She's got you there. She's got you there.
米ソともに関与の疑いがあるのなら、双方に保険をかける。その結果、両国の無関係が証明されれば、事態は一気に好転するはずです。
My God, you just made that darn snake shut up.
漏覚や情報漏洩の懸念よりも、元より米軍機であるアクティブイーグルであれば問題にならない。唯一の気がかりは、ブレーメル少尉をジアコーザ少尉と二人きりにすることぐらいです。どうにもそうみたいですわね。
おい、なんだよ。俺一人が悪者かよ。
米01基地に向かう前に、サンダーク中尉は、ディアチェノワ少尉の機体に乗り換えていただきます。
Did I get through to her? Or is she known all along? Anyway, who cares? Once Yuuya was on the case, it was only a matter of time before she got everything wrapped up neat and tidy.
ブリッ
ジ。
切り札は、最後まで隠しておくからこそ、切り札足りえ。
Oh, interesting. Roger that. Did she just thank me? Oh boy. Oh, it's gonna get spicy. It's already spicy, but it's gonna get even more spicy. Alright. We're gonna go ahead and end here. We'll have to see how this all plays out. I think it's probably the right call. I think Yui's probably decided on the course of action that's best. It's risky, I understand, and I like he said, like, I don't trust the Russians. It's not that they're bad, but they've proven that they're willing to subvert their own allies, or, you know, temporary allies, to get an upper hand. Like, I understand the resistance there, especially with what happened with the railgun, but ultimately we're in a crisis, and I think everyone can agree that it's in all of our best interests to work together. Otherwise, all of us are gonna die, and there's gonna be nothing left to try and recover anyway. So, yeah, it's gonna be spicy. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I certainly did. It's nice to be doing Muv-Luv again, as always. Like, every week, it's always fun. There's a lot of other good content to watch this week. I got a lot of good series going on. I'm currently in the midst of a kind of a challenge blitz run in Knights of the Republic 2, the Sith Lords, which is really good. And right after that, we're gonna jump into Starfield. Finally, I promised to the patrons and members that we're gonna follow through on it now that I've got the computer set up properly for it and everything. It's gonna be good. But yeah, for now, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you enjoyed yourselves. Hopefully there's a lot of good content to keep you excited and going for the next week. And as we get closer to Halloween, there's some great series that are a bit on the spookier side that like might be entertaining to you if you haven't seen them yet. Doki Doki Literature Club, obviously, that's an older one. There's two others I would highly recommend. One would be Saint Maker, which is one that we recently covered. It was really, really good. And then one that most of you probably never even heard of, that I recommend you watch just for the sake of it, is one called Sound of Drop Fall into Poison. It's literally the first visual novel I covered on the channel. What's really scary about it is not only the existential and Cthulhu-esque horror that story is involved in, it's also the horror of watching me stumbling around, not knowing what I'm doing when it comes to audio recording, video recording, or editing. And just the mess that it was, me trying to figure all that out. Yeah, there's some real horror to be seen there, but I'm also proud to keep it up because, you know, it shows where I've come from. So anyway, that's a really, I'd strongly recommend you check it out. I think that series has maybe like 15 views on it, so it'd be kind of fun to see some of you go over there and let me know what you think of the old me versus the new me. But anyway, lots of good stuff to share and lots of good stuff to watch. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for the support directly from the members and patrons. It means the world to me. Hopefully I can keep making it up to you and make it worthwhile in your eyes to continue to support the channel. But until then, and until the next video, watch me or see me next. I'll see you there.